Hello and welcome to Cup of Tea's 3-Minute Reviews. And the time it takes you to brew a cup of tea, we'll cover an entire movie. My name is Tim, and I'm joined as always by Michael.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Today's movie is Flatliners. It is a 1990 psychological horror film directed by Joel Schumacher and starring a who's who of popular 80s talent. Michael, please give us your hot take.
Tim, this movie was not my cup of tea, but only barely. There was a lot of things in here that didn't work. There was some stuff that worked really well. In the end, it didn't quite net out to a positive review for me, but it was darn close. What about you?
This movie was my cup of tea, although barely. I think we got the same read on the problems and the same read on the positives. But for me, the positives just carried it over that threshold and turned it into a positive for me.
So Tim, give everybody a rundown. What's the thing about?
5 medical students decide to use their medical knowledge to discover what lies in the great beyond by causing brain death and being revived. Michael, you say this wasn't your cup of tea. Please give us a few reasons why.
My greatest problem, Tim, is I just don't know what this movie was trying to be, and I don't think it knows either. Yeah. There were moments where it was playing on thriller-style elements. You know, it was a horror film where these folks had killed themselves, they'd gone to the other side, and they brought back their demons with them.
Yeah.
And that felt very horror movie. But on the other side, we also had, a lot of, reflection about guilt and death and forgiveness. Both of those are good movies, but when they were combined together, it just didn't quite mesh and didn't work for me.
It's an uneven balance of an Ingmar Bergman Swedish art film about death and like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And because of that uneven balance, the movie feels disjointed and it doesn't always feel like it's of a piece. Although I'm going to jump into the positives though and say this movie looks amazing. I mean, it's got a great look to it. It's an incredibly shot film. They use color and they use light in a really interesting way, and their set design is incredible. Joel Schumacher is best known probably for ruining the Batman franchise in the 1990s. Here, it's that same kind of style, but it's dialed way, way down. It's much more accessible, it's much more interesting, and it really serves the narrative, I feel, rather than distract from it.
The film looks great, Tim, and the thing I liked most about it was the medical scenes.
Yeah.
They had some of these very suspenseful, dramatic moments where folks who had killed themselves were on the other side and they're being brought back, right? They need to be resuscitated with, the electro paddles and CPR, and they shot those really, really well. They were very suspenseful. Those were the parts of the movie I liked the most, and that was done really well, too.
I really like the cast for this movie, too. Like I said, it's a who's who. This is like a self-contained version of the Kevin Bacon game. It's got very young Julia Roberts, a very young Kiefer Sutherland, Kevin Bacon's in it. It's a great cast, and they're giving great performances, and it's really fun to see them in their prime.
So, Tim, I'm going to flip it back to the negative because another egregious problem for me in this movie was the plot holes. There were several big plot holes. The one that bothered me the most is, 4 of these students go to the other side, they get their demons, and they bring them back with them. We resolve only 3 of those plots. The 4th guy, his name's Joe, we just never resolve his. So, hopefully he's okay. I guess we'll figure it out later. But, that felt really bad to me. Why did we invest all this time in him going to the other side if we're not going to resolve his demons?
No, they invested a ton of time in his story and then completely forgot to give him a resolution. I guess he figured it out off camera, maybe. But yeah, it's a huge miss. I think that's a genuine problem with this movie, which is why this movie is kind of a mixed bag. So, Michael, when should somebody watch the film?
Tim, there's a lot of really good ideas in this movie. But for me, it just doesn't add up to a fully unified piece that I recommend to somebody. What about you?
I would definitely recommend this for somebody who's looking for something that's not scary, but might be a little bit spooky for like a Halloween or an October time. But just know that you're in for a mixed bag. There are a lot of problems narratively, and it doesn't always come together. But I think there's a lot here to recommend. Thank you guys for listening. This has been Cup of Tea's 3-Minute Reviews.